as you can see for the first time, but likely not the last, these things happen. It's just me right now. Anthony, our guest for today, Anthony Stokes of Intrusive Thoughts #2, live on Kickstarter now, is running about 5 minutes late. But I wanted to come on and sort of talk him up a little bit, let you know what he's done previously if you haven't ever heard of him, and of course, talk a little bit about the book. So scrolling on the bottom of the screen is the title. So if you're into horror comics, if that is your jam, absolutely punch that into Kickstarter. Go find it. Go back it. I promise you're gonna like it. That being said, the man, the myth, the legend, Anthony Stokes, at Stokes the writer, at DK Comics, Decay, DECAY. Absolutely fantastic, man. He'll be joining us in just a few minutes. But let's explore the page. So this is the Kickstarter page for Intrusive Thoughts #2, which takes a bit of an interesting twist compared to the first one. So with Intrusive Thoughts #1, it deals with a character who is very much so flawed, very much so dealing with mental health issues like many of us are. And so it's sort of his struggle to deal with and cope with the world. In Intrusive Thoughts #2 here, those thoughts start becoming a little darker, a little more physically strong, and it tends to make the world a bit of a less great place. So as you can see here, we've got a number of days to go, 49 days left. I believe the campaign's been live for like, I think it's 7 or 8 days. He's already got 31 backers, $860 backed, which is fabulous. Canadian, of course. Anthony is from the States, so when he sees that, I will have to pre-warn him. The comic itself, the art style is, well, as you can see, it's very dark, and the artist that is on this book uses a lot of heavy black inks to create that sort of atmospheric horror, which I frankly love. I think it's fantastic and perfect. Love this shot. And we get a lot of shots like this in the first issue of our protagonist sort of struggling. So I very much enjoy this. But that being said, Anthony has just arrived. So bear with me and we'll bring Anthony on in. Alrighty. Anthony, I hope you're ready. Here we go.
Hey, sorry about that.
No worries. No worries, man. These things happen. How you doing today?
I'm doing fantastic, man. Just launched. I don't even know where it's at. I don't even know where the campaign's at.
Oh, then allow me to show you. This is in Canadian dollars, so.
Oh no! Don't even show me. It's not. It's gonna. No, that's the worst blue balls. When you look at a different currency.
Yeah, I know. I'll say this: you're maybe just shy or just over a quarter of the way there.
Okay.
In Canadian, you're aiming for about 3,400, and you're at 866. So 25%.
Okay. Yeah. Okay.
Yeah. So overall, Anthony, I've been letting the people know sort of what the book's been about, my experience with the first issue, as well as sort of touching on a little bit about your other works. But just like my other interviews, just start with, for the folks watching live or watching in the next 49 days, which is when this campaign is live for.
Yeah.
For anyone who doesn't know your face, hasn't seen your name or any of your books, who is Anthony Stokes?
Anthony Stokes, a guy I like to write predominantly about like overcoming trauma, and I guess you could say telling POC stories. But really, I just like to write. There's none much else to me.
I dig it, and most of your stuff you've written so far has been in some capacity about mental health.
Yes.
As well as, like you said, overcoming sort of trauma and adversity with Intrusive Thoughts 1, with Decay Comics. And then you kind of made a foray off a little bit to some fun with Tap or Die, which is a sick comic.
I would still say that's about trauma, though. I would still say that. I would say maybe even. No, I'd say about the same.
It's just a little flash.
Yeah.
Yeah.
that's something I'm working on. Is like I want to keep that stuff and maybe like go more broad with the aesthetic, but keep those themes, keep those intact.
Beautiful. Then you know what we're kind of touching on already. I believe I've asked you this before, so any return viewers will maybe already know the answer, but I like to hear the update. What draws you to mental health, overcoming trauma, sort of specifically um, as a choice of writing?
Absolutely. So whenever I have a premise or like the idea is just in the ether, it's not materialized. I like to insert a piece of myself into it to really flesh it out, essentially.
Mm.
And so that's where you get that. Like Decay is about grief, Intrusive Thoughts is about depression, anxiety. Tap or Die is about like like anger, and then Gods Were Dead is just about like hopelessness, basically. But I'm trying to like I feel like it's cheaper to make comics than therapy, so that's why I'm trying to work through some shit.
Yeah. No, hey, you know what? If getting it on the page and getting it out helps you, I am certain that there are readers out there that it will help as well. Um, which I appreciate the honesty. Because some people might not want to be so forward about it.
You
I
just bring
do
it out of
think,
me.
yeah.
What can I say?
I do think, given the very specific nature of your writing, it would be an unavoidable question, and thus you have to deal with it. But
Yeah,
I
yeah.
feel like that works for you. You're very
Hmm.
head on, tackle the problem kind of person. Um,
Hmm.
yeah.
Yeah, I mean it's been cathartic for sure. It's been cathartic, and also when you put yourself in that headspace, it's almost like you can't run out of stuff to write about, because you're working through things. I think the challenge right now is I'm doing work for hire stuff, so like not everything. I can't have that. Sometimes I'm giving a premise, sometimes I'm developing a premise. I can't be in my wheelhouse all the time.
Mhm.
So it's like, now how do I find that motivation? I try to get myself invested in anything, like I think some people think like um they're like, oh, when you talk about going broad, right, when you talk about, hey, make something that has more broad appeal, I think people are like, oh, but then it's going to be trash, or oh, it's going to be cynical. No, you have to add, like Tap or Die, you have to add the soul to it to make it flesh it out, make it feel like where you're invested in it as much as it is your story.
Perfect. I love it. I think that's a fantastic way to put it. Um, because some people could say, "Oh, you're selling out. You're no longer just doing your own thing." But it's like, no, you're expanding as a writer. You're figuring out how to deal with other genres, other types of stories. Um, yeah, the kudos. One of our earliest interviews, I believe our first one, because we've done like a few of these
We've
now.
done a lot of these. You were
Yeah,
definitely a
we
must stop for sure on those.
thank you kindly. One of your earliest interviews that I asked you a question about, how you got into the making comics and the community, and you very much so were of the opinion that you feel that you're rather abrasive, that a lot of people maybe don't like you because of, and I will say kindly, because of your confidence in yourself, your drive to get content out, where others might see arrogance or thick-headedness. But I mean, you're here. You're
Can I
still
tell you
making
something
comics.
anecdotal real quick?
Oh hell yeah, go for it.
One of my earliest memories is my little brother. When he's a baby, he's crying. My mom's helping me with my homework, and it's a notepad, and it's a three letter word, and I had to fill it in. This is elementary school, and my mom was like, "It's pad," and I was like, "No, mom, it's paper." And I was like really insistent and really snappy, and she gave me a whooping. And then she gave me a whooping. She came downstairs. I'm crying. My brother's crying. She's like, both of my babies are crying. So, this has been something I've dealt with literally my entire life. I think no, I think that's a generous way to put it. That it's like confident. I think it's the same side of a different coin. It's about perspective. But like for me, it's always I look at market inefficiencies, and I look at, how do I get the edge? How do I stand out? In a lot of comics discourse is always really downtrodden and really like, damn, do y'all even like making comics? Like, people gonna know, like, and I will communicate like when I'm having struggles, but people gonna know like the good stuff. People gonna like feel the fun to the aspect. They're gonna feel like the best parts of the process.
I love it, and I think that's why I like having you on, man. Because like, yeah, you're fun. You're bringing to comics something that, unfortunately, like you've just said, a lot of
Yeah,
people they say that it's a struggle to make comics, which it is.
it
It's very
is.
difficult. There's a lot of components to this. What you're doing now is basically a day job on top of making the book, on top of doing, regular work and paying rent and all the other things. So thank you for bringing the fun. Uh, that being said, Anthony, we're at about the 11-minute mark here, and I think it's important that we talk about your book.
Oh yeah, for sure. Yeah, right.
Yeah. So, Intrusive Thoughts #1, I sort of mentioned earlier, is more mental. It showed us a world where this character is dealing with their mental health struggles, and it alluded to a fact that things were going on, but perhaps it was all in the protagonist's head, but it was affecting them a lot. With #2, it seems that your world is getting darker and things are coming out of his head, and are impacting the world now. So, can you sort of give a recap of the first issue and then let us know sort of a taste of what's going on for #2? That way, the folks out there can go back it and enjoy.
Absolutely. So, in True Thoughts issue 1, it's about Tyler. He's an orphan. His parents left him at a police station, abandoned him. He's a baby. He left him with a snow globe. And growing up, he's in a foster family. His foster parents don't care about him. They just use him as a paycheck. They're jet setting. They're always gone. He has sleep paralysis, anxiety, depression, like as you would, loneliness. And then he has sleep paralysis, and then a bully's messing with him. And then one day his sleep paralysis even bites a kid. And so that is the crux of the plot. It's like, why is this happening? How do we stop it? What are the implications of it now? And then that's where issue 2 takes off.
Beauty. And I don't know if we're gonna see it. Is the shot of the bite in the can? Oh, well, there's our demon.
Yeah. Yeah, keep
Love it.
scrolling. It should be.
All right, perfect. God, I love it. When it came up to coming up with the designs of the sleep paralysis demon and all the ways that manifests itself in the book, how did you settle on a design? What sort of inspired it?
There was a lot. I mean, essentially, Venom was one. This is maybe a deep cut. The gargoyles. Not that that's a deep cut.
Make the
Remember?
cartoon?
Yeah.
Hell yeah.
Remember Real Monsters? With the one with the it was one with the long feet, the long curly feet.
Yeah.
Yeah, so kind of in that vein, sort of like a purpley kind of monster, and then also it can like transform and change shape as well, which is nice. So it's a versatile design for sure.
Right on. Like because as mentioned, you sent over a press package for me. When I saw this, the first thing that came to mind, I don't know if I'll be able to find this. Oh, cool. Yeah, the nightmare.
I'm
What came
curious.
to mind was, oh, nope, I need that back. Was this painting? I've seen it a lot. I loved it as a kid, but that's sort of what came to mind for me. Because it's creepy and it's weird. But I like this guy. I like the horse that's here with like seemingly no eyes. So yeah, that kind of, when people say sleep paralysis, that's the thing that pops up for me.
Oh no, you poor thing.
Yeah.
Yeah, no, that's a good. There's all kinds of great. There's so many directions you can go. And one thing I really wanted to do with this series is I read Chainsaw Man. I always have my deep cuts. I mean, that's not that it's a super deep. Back then when I wrote this, it was a deep cut. This is like 2021,
So
or
it's not
no.
popular yet. Yeah.
Yeah, it's kind of surged, but I like when you read Chainsaw Man. I love a story that will take you in interesting places, and I feel like with this, every sort of twist, every turn, every issue is going to is going to keep the viewer off kilter. That's what I was trying to do. I wanted the tone to change every issue, and I want it to feel cohesive in spite of that. I essentially, yeah.
Okay, so when you're writing it, then one, I now I really want to know how many issues, ideally, say not that I don't think you will, but in a world that is perfect and wonderful and you're fully funded for everything you want to do, how many issues is Intrusive Thoughts currently, and how do you keep it, like you said, conducive or consistent thematically across that many issues when you are trying different things and you're allowing it to be adaptable?
Damn, that's a good question. So it's going to be 6, maybe 5. I might try to get it down to 5. Maybe a supersized issue 5. As far as cohesiveness, I think one, plot wise, nothing that happens can be out of the realm of what has been established. Like, you have to work within your own internal logic. 2, I think once you establish that the tone can go in different directions, viewers are more ready for it, right? Like, you look at James Gunn, Quentin Tarantino; these are guys that work
Mhm.
and come in and out of tones, hopping. And I think audiences are now trained more, and this is partly because of comic books, to expect different tones and different genres. Like the most prolific directors, the most prolific comic writers, the most prolific. There's a lot of stuff that is just straightforward one thing,
Yep.
if you can nail it, you can nail it. But you're seeing more and more media. The genre matters less. I was arguing about somebody about Beau is Afraid, because somebody put it on a top 5 horror movie list, and the guy was like, "It's not a horror movie," but it's like, bro, what is it? Like, what is this movie? That um. So I don't know. I'm losing my train of thought. But you can lean into something. I'd like stuff to either lean into a thing and be one thing or be anything. Like, that's the kind of media I want. Take me down a specific, uber specific path, or take me through a maze. Take me through a
Mhm.
labyrinth. Are you looking up Beau is Afraid?
Yeah, I'm checking out sort of the screenshots and grabs of it, sort of the internet, like a snapshot of the internet's idea of what this thing is,
But
and
you
it's
do.
kind of creepy.
It's a horror, it's a comedy, it's a drama, it's an odd, it can be anything. And I just feel like these conversations are so lazy. It's so
Mhm.
worthless. Like, not no, I'm gonna say worthless, like determining, oh, what's the genre. If you're calling Toy Story a horror movie, sure, but like, this has enough. We're wasting too much time talking about that when we can be talking about something meaningful. Like, what's the merit of making a movie like this? What
Mhm.
tones work best in this movie that has multiple tones? Like, what if it's executed well? Why? Stuff like that. We just end up having these like mundane conversations that ultimately, what are we doing? Like, we're not
Yeah,
being
yeah, yeah.
smart about media by arguing, is Beau is Afraid a horror movie? Is Die Hard a Christmas movie? Like, shit like that. Like,
Interestingly, Bruce Willis has said it is not. Uh,
bro, who cares? Call it a Christmas movie you want. Like,
yeah.
it's like,
Well, see that line of thinking and appreciation for storytelling over medium or genre, I dig that, because like I think anyone who is into sci-fi, unless you're like super pigeonholing yourself, you will also blend in like fantasy usually, because I find those two tend to go together. Um, oh, welcome back. Those two tend to go together well when it comes to storytelling, and like they're supposed to be conceptually opposites, and yet I don't know. I think like the greatest story of them all, at least of sci-fi, is a fantasy story, which is Star Wars, right? It's about wizards in space.
Yeah, it's hard to say. I wouldn't call that sci-fi at all. Yeah, I would definitely call it. I would definitely call it fantasy. I
Yeah.
think right. I think certain genres, it's almost like a color wheel. Like certain genres work, but I feel like horror and comedy work well together, immaculately. Like you said, it's fantasy. That'd be interesting. See, this is interesting. What are the complementary genres as opposed to, that's an interesting conversation right there. Um, so I'm gonna sit on that one.
All right, I like it. Well, I will say you've hit comedy and horror tend to go well together, like Cabin in the Woods. Um,
Evil
I
Dead.
guess yeah, psychological thrillers tend to blend well with a lot of stuff.
Yeah.
Um, Also, political commentary or social commentary in horror goes well, like Get Up or not Get Up, Get Out.
Yeah, yeah, no,
I love
100%.
that movie.
Get Up, was that or don't look up? Don't What was it, the Leo movie? But yeah,
That's his other one, yeah.
no, you're right, exactly. So it's a way you can do it, but like me personally, I watched what did I watch? I watched BoJack Horseman, Parasite. It was a bunch of other stuff. Pretty much, let's just stick with those two things. And when you look at those things could be anything. An episode of BoJack could be anything in the world.
Yep.
Parasite, any given scene, you're gonna get a completely different tone than the one before it, the one after it. And that's what I really want. I want you don't know. Because if you're known for Quentin Tarantino, you're knowing what you're going when you go into it. I mean, there can be surprises, but more or less you understand the tone. But
Hmm.
when you go into, say, a David Fincher movie, I mean, you still understand the tone. But you look at who's a better example? PTA. PTA is a better example. PTA is like an extremely versatile director.
Mm-hmm.
And you know what? If you spin the wheel and just play a PTA movie, you could get you can get like I would say There Will Be Blood is damn near a horror movie, but you can get something like that. You can get Boogie Nights. You can get a dramedy. You can get like a period drama. You can get anything. But when you spin the wheel for Tarantino, you're gonna get like a black comedy enter in a
Mm-hmm.
genre. And there's nothing wrong with that. But like that's not what I aspire to with like as a writer.
Fair enough. I did want to ask. So you mentioned earlier you're doing some freelance for hire or some for hire work. Um, so what is that project, and what have they got you working on? Can you tell? Actually,
I can tell. I can actually tell because some of this stuff is on pre-launch. Okay. Listen. I'm working on something called American Yakuza with my friend Charlie McElvey and my boy Chris Moses. And this thing has a crazy long title. And if I wasn't late, I might close out of here and go look up the title. But I'm gonna try to be professional. It was like I signed into an MMA. I and I became. It's a long ass title, but we call it American Yakuza, so that's going to be really fun. So and that goes to my point. It's a 5-issue series. Charlie gave us like he gave us like certain directions, but it was more or less up to us. And
okay.
it's about a Yakuza family. The boss is sick. He dies. So now it's a secession war. So I call it Secession with Swords, basically. Like that was the pitch in my head, and it's got everything we talked about. Every issue has a different tone. It's like fun. It's tense. It's sexy. It's all these. It's irreverent. There's that. I got another project. I'll come on here and talk about it actually.
All
uh
right.
yeah, because I can't. We're kind of doing like a little secret release, yeah. So
Don't
and
get
then what
yourself
else?
in trouble now.
Don't you mind? No, I know. And then I'm working with one of my favorite creators. I can't really say. I mean, it's probably not a big deal, but why? Why?
Why
I'm
risk it?
abrasive enough. Why risk it? Yeah, let me play it safe for once.
Fair, fair. Uh, then you know what? Back to Intrusive Thoughts number 2, which is
Real
what we're
quick,
here to promote.
could you Google American Yakuza Kickstarter real quick? I want you to pull it up so you can see this title.
And
It's
is
a
it
great.
live on Kickstarter?
It's
Oh,
pre-launch.
Charles McKelvey, correct?
Yeah, yeah. Read the title.
All right, hold on. Am I good to put it on screen?
Yeah, for sure. It's in pre-launch. Yeah, we're good.
Cool. So I've got American Yakuza 100-page NSFW OGN murder mystery set in Japan.
Read it.
Oh God, I invested in an international conglomerate and went from an MMA champion to becoming a first ever American Yakuza. Current overnight, literally. Yeah, but that's like par for the course for the genre.
I think so too. I think that's and you know what? American Yakuza. That's all I'm saying, bro. Like, I ain't saying that long ass shit. He ain't paid me enough to say that damn title every time, but this special. This is everything I can genuinely say that, like, because I think Intrusive Thoughts 2 is great, obviously, but I can say like what's coming next year is gonna be like sick. It's gonna be up. I think when we first probably around our first interview was Tapper. No, it wasn't Tapper Die, was it? Who was our first?
No,
The first Intrusive Thoughts, wasn't it?
Yeah.
Yeah. Around then, I felt like, man, I probably felt stagnant. I didn't get no pitches accepted, and now it's like, oh my god, I think I have like 16 comic book projects coming out next year. Yes, like,
all kickstarted or some published, some kickstarted, some whatever.
Yeah.
And
Most
don't get yourself in trouble.
I can say they're going to be on Kickstarter. I mean, that's a majority of it. And like I'm getting the jobs from my friends. I'm on Kickstarter. They're on Kickstarter. Yes. So I probably have 7 projects coming out that I'm releasing next year, and then a lot of Tapper Die, a whole lot of Tapper Die, some new properties, and then like American Yakuza I'm really excited for. The other thing I can't talk about. The other thing I can't talk about. Like, so yeah, it's going great.
All right, I dig it. Then yeah, like before we get ahead of ourselves. So for Intrusive Thoughts number 2, where we've got Tyler who's dealing with some serious mental health issues that are popping out of his head and coming to bite people quite literally. As always, I want to make sure we cover the minimum someone can pay to get in on it, and then sort of generally your crazier stuff. I guess just to start, like I'll bring it up. No, you know what? Let's just hop right into it. Here we go. Let's see if I can't just put a cool image on state. There I don't know. What do we got? Oh yeah, I like that shot. So yeah, walk us through sort of some of the minimum tiers people can do to get into it, and then go as crazy as you want.
Absolutely. So obviously the PDF is $5. That's a 32-page comic. We have the digital deluxe. If you want something a little bit extra, it comes with an interview, comes with like copies of all the covers. We have the physical copy, and then it's essentially just like the bundles and stuff. Like, how many covers do you want? Do you want the first copy? And then we have a bunch of beautiful variants, and then we have my whole catalog. And it's funny because that's a great cover. I think that's my favorite cover personally.
That's cool.
Keep scrolling. That's another cover, another great cover as well. And then like, all right, so it was funny because it's getting to the point where the person that does my designs, he was like, your catalog is too big to fit this on one graphic. I'm like, let's go. Good problems, you know, champagne problems. and then it's just very combinations of like bundles and stuff like that after that.
Okay. Oh, that's cool. So like basically, again, if someone just wants a digital copy, the first one, like you said, $5, 7 Canadian, and then they can go from there and get sort of everything, which I think is super cool. Are we in the early bundles?
Yeah,
you can still get these guys. Every cover of Intrusive Thoughts number 2, I dig it. How did you hook up with the artists to do the alternate covers?
Absolutely. So all these people are people I worked with before. So Marco Leone, we worked together a couple times. Damiano Vestivo is quickly becoming one of my favorite artists to work with. He's drawing American Yakuza, and that kid, he's sick, man. He's a sicko, bro. He's just amazing. He's just incredible technique. And then 24x4 is one of my close friends. and she did this cover right here. Um, so that I mean we met in person. We talk regularly. Like she's like a real IRL friend at this point. So
Oh, cool.
and that's nice when you can find those in comics, right? Because most people in comics you're not gonna meet. Like
Yeah. It that is funny to me because I remember when I first started going to cons way back when I was but a wee babe. Um, I walked up to a table to get one of my books signed, and it was the artist that I wanted to have sign my book. And I was like, "Excuse me, are you?" I think it was Tony Daniel, and he was like, "Yeah, that's me." And it was just the fact that he was just there. Like I
yeah,
thought maybe this was like an assistant, and the guy that I wanted was out somewhere. And I'm like, "Oh my god, it's so nice to meet you." Blah blah blah. Um, but yeah, it's funny because like in this world, like in comics, it's not unusual for you not to know what your artists and writers look like.
yeah.
That's why I always lead off for those who've maybe never seen your face or heard your name. Who is? Um,
That's a good point. Yeah.
yeah, this is a cool cover. Fabi is a friend as well.
She's a friend, absolutely. The beautiful Fabi. She we met in Twitter space and she just she's an invasive species. She's from Brazil. She just latched herself into our group. Yeah, I actually saw her at Baltimore Comic Con
Oh, cool.
and she actually stayed with me for like a week, I think. And she was just the best guest ever, man. I miss her. This is like not she's amazing colorist, I think like you can she's kind of opened up my eyes to what good comic not good because I don't want to say that, but great comic coloring can do, professional comic coloring can do. And you can
Mhm.
see even the jacket, the way like it gets darker in certain places.
Yep.
There's a texture there. It's just insane. I mean, she's incredible.
It yes. A good colorist, a good artist can do absolute wonders to bring out levels of definition and depth in a otherwise flat image that are just spectacular. Um, Anthony, you've done something that I think is the coolest thing you can do in indie comics. Um, so the folks out there watching, they can get drawn into your next issue of Intrusive Thoughts.
Yep,
Uh,
yep.
that's sick. Um, I think I've asked this enough times to other creators, but I always am curious when it comes to allotting the space for that, especially because I find with Intrusive Thoughts, it is a very personal sort of small. It's a small story with a big scope, and you're tackling a lot of big problems. Um, but yeah, what kind of accommodations did you have to do to be able to get to draw people in? And do your artists find it to be a pain, or were they like, "This will be cool, let's do it"?
Oh, I mean, bro, it's what I think really one you have to have them in mind once you would not have noticed, but there is a person, somebody got the reward the first time around and they were drawn in. You have to you don't give them I mean you could give a major character, but you just think of somewhere they can fit. And I think the artist I wouldn't mind as an artist because it's a specific, normally you just say person A, person B, but like now you're giving them a person that like you're drawing in, you're getting them references and stuff. So
I dig it. And
yeah.
have you, just as you, have you put yourself, your artists, family members, just because you can, into books?
Absolutely. So I didn't put myself in there, but my artist I think drew uh I think he drew a me in there, and uh I think he wasn't very generous with the size. My mom is in a comic book as well, and then I put my late father, I have references, I put pictures of him in the back of the Decay series. So yeah, absolutely, I do it frequently.
I dig it. That kind of stuff I like. I like the Easter eggs out of it. Um, then here's a question for you. Then, so when it comes to the series and where it's going, what it's about conceptually, where is it that you want to take the story in your fifth or sixth issue? Um, without spoilers, like what's the what is, I guess not the content specifically, but the message that you want to sort of be able to get out with intrusive thoughts?
I think it's just self care. I think it's learn to love yourself. I think that's the messaging, and that's where it's headed. We'll get there. We'll get there at some point. But that's it. That I think that's spoiler alert. That's how, if the character gets through this, that's how he's gonna get through it.
I dig it. And now that you're working on so many different projects, I would be remiss if I didn't ask, will we ever see characters from other series pop in? Like, will Tyler ever be watching Domino Wrestling or anything weird like that?
I would say rarely, because I think I'm resistant to that sort of thing, because it can feel gimmicky. Like my friend Charlie, that's what he does. That's literally what uh his series Spider Scroll is about. Um, and I've thought about crossing over, but the problem, what you run into is, what if somebody, you could incentivize somebody to read more of your stuff, right? And
Mhm.
you could reward the readers. You could also alienate people. You can also
Yeah.
alienate people. I don't want to get into the fan service bag, because then what kind of fans are you? You can kind of foster your fan base, and I want my fan base to be there for the story. That's the appeal you get from the mainstream comics. We don't need that. You know. And if you do it, that's cool. I'm just saying. You asked me, so that's my answer.
Absolutely. No, this is a part of sort of why I wanted to ask you that. And I guess I really am curious with the next one. When it comes to the people that either at cons are meeting, or that you're getting comments from online, the buyers that are actually backing your books and stuff, what have you noticed about the people that you tend to draw in? Like, if, and again, we're all different, unique individuals, but like, if you had to guess what your typical fan was like, how would you categorize them?
It's so hard, because I'm so new. I don't meet a lot of my fans. I mean, I meet my friends, but it's hard to say. I mean, I would just think they like good storytelling. Now, if I had to say, but I'm not there in my career where I'm like out at a con and somebody's like, "Oh my god, I read Intrusive Thoughts." Unless you've seen me before. Like, I guess. I just think it likes good storytelling. That's something I want to bring. That's what we're putting out there.
I dig it. Uh, well, Anthony, we're just shy of 40 minutes in.
Yeah.
So for the folks that they're watching, like I said, live with us now, or sometime in the next 49 days, who are all going to go back Intrusive Thoughts #2 on Kickstarter by Googling or searching the
Intrusive Thoughts
nanny
too.
scrolling across the bar. Yeah.
Yeah.
Uh, where's the best place for them to follow you online? Where are you most active? Where can they get the most up to date stuff?
At On Twitter, at Stokes the Writer, for sure. Follow me over there.
Perfect. I dig it. Do you? I don't think you do. Do you have a newsletter or anything like that?
No, I just go through Kickstarter mostly.
Fair. Um, it's a little better. Now,
Mm.
okay. So let Anthony, let's get into the fun stuff. We've covered the book. People know what it's about. They know where to back it. If they
Yeah.
want to get in, minimum $5 gets them a copy. I believe I saw one for, it was 10 or 15, gets you both issues. Um, so let's talk about you, because you are fascinating. You're, like I said earlier, confident, well spoken, and I feel like you have a lot of interesting thoughts. Um, Something that's come up in my life recently, anyway, just through conversation with other people and things I've noticed online, is a talk about variant covers, and specifically comparing mainline, DC, Marvel, Image, Boom, the big companies, to indie. Um, and mostly the dialogue I see around it is such that it's like, why are they still around, right? Because like all these people who were collectors in the 90s when it became super popular, they have bins of them in their basement, and they don't do much. Me personally, I'm a big fan of them, especially when they're interesting or different. Like DC did a selfie version where all their covers were basically selfies or pictures taken from the character's perspective. Like I think there's a new Teen Titans one where I think Raven's holding the phone and everyone's around her. So I dig stuff like that. I think it's interesting and fun. Sometimes they're movie homages. You have variant covers.
A lot of
So yeah, it really cool ones. So when comparing sort of the mainline stuff to indie, um, what's sort of the draw for you to do variant covers, and what, I guess, cues or ideas do you give those artists to make them?
Yeah, so the thing is, like, the Kickstarter market is very much about, okay, let's talk about a variant in its simplest form. A variant is another pitch to the audience. Every cover is a pitch to the audience, right? So there's that. When you're on Kickstarter, that's the thing that people want. That's what the main thing that they're buying on. I had somebody ask me, like, do people really care about variant covers? And it's like, yes. No, everybody's just doing variant covers just because it's fun.
Yeah,
We
it's
love
fun.
spending money we don't get back. Yeah. Um, so it's a pitch. Every cover is a pitch. If you have the same cover on, let's say you had two racks at a con and you have the same cover for each one, even like let's say the same artist, you're drawing, the viewers gonna draw have to have a like a predisposed. They have to like that artist. But
Mhm.
if you take those same racks and you mix it up, and now it's 15 artists, now you have a wide range of art and technique and style and perspective that you can use to rope in a customer. And the other side that, well, if you're a lot of the people I'm doing series with, if I'm doing a series with you, I'm probably getting a variant from you. You know, I'm either getting it before so we can test it out, see how we work with each other, or after because I want to acclimate you to my audience.
Interesting.
Yeah, it's levels. So, that's what's fun about making comics is like the little the strategic stuff, and that's what people. I got into an argument as I usually do. I was talking about manga versus comics, and I feel like comics are better. And manga, I feel like manga is better than comics. And somebody was like, "Oh, there's no nuance," and I was like, "How do we recreate that on our side?" Not my greatest tweet, but people. It was a bunch of people that didn't make comics that were like, "Oh, this guy doesn't know what he's talking about." It's like you don't have a perspective. You're not doing it. These particular people were doing nothing with themselves and had the nerve to talk shit about me. But it's just there's a instinct and a perspective that you have that you can only get if you, not that you can only get, but that comes with doing this for a bit. You need to maximize your return, your ROI essentially.
Yeah, exactly. No, that's fascinating. Like as someone who was first and foremost a consumer of comics, right? Like one thing that used to bother me, um, and I don't know if I just stopped caring or if I maybe mentally somewhere clicked on it, but like even having an artist do the cover that didn't do the interior, that used to bother me because I'm like, this is not what the book looks like.
Yeah,
Read it, ergo, I don't like it. Like I said, over time, whatever. I just
it's two
e-
different skill sets, truthfully. Like a
yeah,
great interior artist may not. I've seen both. I've seen, you would think it'd be easier, but a great interior artist may not be able to do covers, and vice versa. That they're really two different skill sets, So a lot of times, like in am I supposed to shoehorn a interior artist to do a cover so it doesn't sell? Like that doesn't make sense. Now, I'm not critiquing your point, but just
no, 100%. Like this is why I think it's good to ask you about it because you've got experience I don't have. You've got acumen because of that I just am not aware of. And
yeah.
so, like I said, it's fun. Like I know a local guy to me, Mike Ruth, who does absolutely stunning covers.
Hmm.
He's now starting to do interiors. Um, and I would actually like to have a fairly prolonged conversation with him about the differences. Um, because yeah, like if in a month you have to do one cover, say, and that pays your bills and whatever, that's your work for the month, you're doing one page. Whereas if you're doing interiors in a month, you've got to rip through and do 24 pages. very different skill set.
Yeah.
So I guess then, like you said, it gets you that ROI. It's a different pitch. It gets people interested. Um, what do you feel about then when you have different artists on the interior? Like in indie comics, it's not uncommon, right? You can hire one artist to do a job, and maybe by the next time you're ready to do issue 2 or whatever, that person's busy, ergo you have to shift. It happens.
It happens, yeah. I mean, that's more or less how I feel about it. It happens. It's not ideal, but you know, it is what it is. You know, you got to keep it going. I feel like, I mean, you might lose some audiences, you might gain some audience, but you got to, the show goes on. You know.
Right on. Do you think that forces you to shift how you write what you're writing, or is it just?
You should. I mean, you if it's a drastically different style, you should. But I mean, it's that, bro. That's so much of context. You know.
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah, you always gotta be able to adapt, but like I can't say for sure one way or the other. You know. Like,
yeah, we'd have to know what specific issue have you written, what has happened with the artist team, what's going on, why, all that kind of stuff.
yeah, exactly. You can't know. I mean, you could argue that, like, all right, you're changing artists. Do you really want to drastically change your writing style as well? Like, I don't know the right answer to that one. You know.
Well, I hope it doesn't happen to you.
Too late. Too late.
Then about your tweet earlier, you mentioned you feel that. Oh yeah, no, let's go for it. Because this is a fun conversation that I have an opinion on. So just to be clear, so your tweet that you put out that got some response was basically you were stating that you feel that manga is better than comics.
Yeah, yeah. The people that the college dropouts really didn't like that one. I'm a college dropout.
Now give me the context. What do you mean by better?
Yeah.
How is it better?
Let's say why it's dubious. It's because one, I haven't read every comic. I haven't read every manga, right? And also I also specified mainstream comics. But the reason why I feel like that it's better is because I think manga writers have a stronger voice, and it's that simple. And I think part of it is, and you know, part of it is that I'm working on one thing. Like the guy who wrote Chainsaw Man is only writing Chainsaw Man. Where if you have James Tynion, for instance, like how much stuff is that dude writing? You know, so I think it's there. All of it, right? And it's like you don't have the same attention to detail, and then like you're changing creative teams and stuff like that. Like when you look at it, like comics is more auteur, and then manga is more auteur. Comics are more like collaboration, and you're switching. I've never seen a manga series switch artists, you know. So that's kind of what I mean, and because of that, the writing is stronger, the tone is stronger, all that stuff. You're also, hey, volume 1 start, you know, volume whatever is the end and stuff like that. But I think people say I'm coming from a place that's biased. I don't. I make mostly comics. If I have a bias, it's towards comics. But I just think that, okay, cool. And people, you know, I think we should try to have a stronger voice as a comic book writer, you know. Simply put, I don't know. I mean, that's my main point. You know, it's like, what does your writing say about you? What's your writer voice essentially?
Interesting. So like, would you say that it might be more accurate to compare a mangaka to an indie comics creator, because it's more likely that an indie comics creator is only making their one project?
Yes, I think so. And even then I still feel like, and even if we were to do that with Specify, I just feel still as if the manga writers are writing circles around, because I've read, like, considered, like, let's just say this, like the best manga writers, you know, the guys who wrote Berserk, the guy who wrote Chainsaw Man, those guys to me are clear in a way better than like the, you know, like, is Alan Moore getting outwritten by the Chainsaw Man guy? No. But like, you're talking about like one of the greatest writers ever. Like if under that, I feel like it's top heavy comics writing. I'll say that. And then like in between, it's really kind of like, it's kind of fluff. It's kind of like, So that's why I feel that way. And I think there's merit. I don't think there's I'm not pushing an agenda. I'm just saying like here's what this does better. Guess
Yeah.
what? The sales are better. It's more ingrained into the culture of the country. But like why is that? Like let's explore that. Like why is that the case as well? You know? Um Comic book movies are doing crazy and comic book
Yeah.
sales aren't going up. So like what we got to figure something out.
It, to talk about that, I find that fascinating because as someone who is a big fan of manga and anime, um, specifically like 90s, early 2000s stuff, I'm like a huge fan of, say, Rurouni Kenshin, and yet
Yep.
love the manga, dig the show, yet the movies they've put out live action are like, okay, like they're entertaining. I like them, like they're fine. I've watched them, but it's not that like I don't know, it's not as good. Whereas I feel like in the West, we've kind of flipped it where like the movies are loved and celebrated and make God too much money probably. And then the thing that they're from is like meh, for most people.
And then keep in mind, an anime is an adaptation. Like keep in mind that
Mm.
is, you know, what I'm saying
Oh,
so.
perfect.
It's more so. I think it's. Yeah, I mean, it's hard to say, and it is subjective. But like, it's crazy. You can compare anything. You can compare anything, but you compare comics and manga, people get real upset, bro. People get
Yeah.
real frustrated, bro. I don't get it, man. What's going on?
Okay. Now here's a question for you that, or I guess it's just really just a comment, but I want your thoughts on it. When people have asked me previously, what I think about the comparison, what I mainly come to is I find that manga is far more emotionally expressive, whereas and like character driven, whereas American comics are far more event driven and plot driven, and they might get cerebral, but they don't get as emotional. And I think
Yeah.
that's what makes more like manga slightly more approachable, especially to a younger audience. Um, Thoughts?
I think you're right. I think there's a number of things. I think there's so many different things. I think there's gutters, the 24 by 4, the variant. She said when you look at a manga, like the eyes are really big and the mouth is not as expressive. But in the opposite, in the Western style, when you look at Batman or like we look think of like the Batman. Oh my God,
Yeah,
Sin City. Who? Oh my goodness, bro. Oh my God, who's the dude that wrote Sin City?
Frank
Uh,
Miller.
Frank Miller. You look at Frank. Oh my goodness. You look at Frank Miller's Batman. Look how like his mouth is like scrunched up. Like that's the most expressive thing, and even more so, even Spider-Man, who has expressive eyes, they'll roll the mask up and show his mouth a lot.
Yeah.
So I think that's one. I think you're right. I think it is more event face, and I think maybe that's the problem. Like, what if there's a universe where Death of Superman doesn't come out, and like, hey, maybe it is more ingrained in pop culture than it was. Like that. I think that's part of the problem is that it's event based. As far as these manga things are running concurrently, so independent of each other. So if
Mhm.
one piece falls off, I still have Bleach, I still have Rurouni Kenshin, whatever. But where it's like there's waves, I feel like it's more connected with comics.
Yeah.
Yeah,
Interesting.
yeah,
Anthony, I did not think we were going to be getting into the dynamic market of comics versus manga within
yeah.
their cultural and sales based events, I guess. Um,
Hmm.
Interesting. Well, then, Anthony, we're 5 minutes left. Um, I'll ask you my last two questions, and then we'll make sure that people they know where to back you. They've got the link down below in the doobly doo. So, Anthony, my second last question, um, which I'm not sure if I'm going to get a good answer already on this one, but I think I will. Um, Often I find people who make comics, collect paraphernalia in some capacity. We are hoarding little nerds, and we enjoy our things. So, what for you is the thing in your collection that is maybe not the most expensive, maybe not the most rare, but that makes you the most happy?
Boy. I mean, I'm not a collector, bro. I collect indie comics. Any book by Richard Fairgray, who's my mentor. I treasure anything from my boy Pat Shan. but I'm just not a collector, man. Like, it's funny. My man's Aaron went to Japan and got me a Chainsaw Man action figure.
Oh, that's cool.
And it's really nice. And he also got me he'll get me stuff, and I appreciate it. Like, I'll appreciate the fuck out of it. I'm never taking that shit out the box. But I'm also not going to buy it, So it's just not something that I could say. But like, I'm looking at it right now, so I'm gonna say the Chainsaw Man figure.
I dig it.
Yeah.
Now, you've mentioned you're big into indie comics. As an indie comics creator, I find that sort of par for the course. What are you currently reading? What's scratching your brain the right way?
Oh shit. My boy Chris Moses is sending me. He just dropped his comic book. I summoned a demon, and she's kind of my type. So I'm reading that. I'm reading the scripts for that right now. I'm reading Don to Don, the manga. Oh man, I read a lot of stuff, bro. I try to read a comic a day, and then I'm working on a detective story. So I'm gonna work on some detective stuff. And then it's a big question. But that's what I'm reading right now. My boy's script and Don to Don.
I dig it. All right, cool. I pulled up I Summoned a Demon and She's Kind of My Type Volume 1. It looks like Chris has got another project coming out or is out.
Mm-hmm.
Very cool. Well, then people go Google Chris Moses.
Nah.
M-O-S-E-S.
Nah.
No? All right, cool.
He's all right. Nah, he's straight. He don't need no.
He's fine. He don't need the help.
Fine.
All right, cool. And then Anthony, one last time, where can the people follow you? What's the sort of minimum buy-in for the book? And what else do you want them to know?
At Stokes Writer on Twitter. Minimum buy-in is $5, and I just make I just tell great stories.
Beautiful. I love it. Then in that case, Anthony, once again, thank you so much for taking the time to come on the show today. And for the folks out there in YouTube land, comment down below what you thought of Anthony. Go get his book. The first link in the doobly-doo is the thing. And we'll see you next time. Adios.
See ya.
Golden age to present, digest to oversize. Never miss new comic day. Yeah, no surprise. So where's my no prize? Check the letter columns. Can't find issue 2. Nah, collector problems, cliffhangers, mysteries.